Today my title is Losing Today Doesn't Mean Losing Forever. Have you ever felt like giving up after failing an exam, losing a competition, or making a mistake so bad that you thought the life was over? Maybe you studied for weeks, yet the results still disappointed you. Maybe you tried your best, but it still wasn't enough. What if I told you that today failure might be your very beginning of tomorrow's victory? Every student watching this video was experienced failure at some point. Maybe it can be academically, emotionally, or personally. Failure is something we all share, yet many for us fear it. We see failure as the end, when in reality it is just the beginning. I am standing here today not as someone who has never failed before, but as someone who has failed many times. For example, in study, competition, or even my personal goals. However, through reflection, reading, and learning from successful individuals who once I failed, I realized something important: failure does not destroy us, it reshapes us. Today, I want to convince you of one powerful idea. Failure today does not define your future. Instead, it builds resilience, growth, and long-term success. In this page, I will share 3 key points. First, failure is a natural part of learning. Second, failure strengthens resilience and mental toughness. And third, failure is often become the foundation for the greater success later in our life. Failure is a natural part of learning. Let's begin by understanding why failure is actually an important part of learning. We can know that failure is not a sign of weakness. It is a sign that learning is happening. Psychology explains that the human brain learns more effectively through mistake because error highlight areas that need improvement. When we succeed too easily, we stop questioning and stop growing. But when we fail, we reflect, adapt, and improve. One of the best examples of learning throughout failure is our Thomas Edison. Before successfully inventing the light bulb, Edison failed more than 1,000 times. When asked about this failure, he famously said, "I did not fail, but I just found 1,000 ways that won't work." Each failure brought him closer to success. So, failure is not the opposite of learning. Failure is part of the learning process itself. Next, we can see as the failure builds resilience and mental toughness. Now that we understand failure as a learning tool, let's look at how it builds the resilience. Resilience is the ability to recover from setback and keep going despite challenge. And resilience cannot be built without struggle. According to a study published by the American Psychological Association, individuals who experience early failure tend to develop stronger coping with skill and problem-solving ability later in our life. We can clearly see this in athletes. Athletes lose matches, make mistakes, and they also fail repeatedly during the training, but those failures mentally prepare them for the real competition. Each loss teaches discipline, emotional control, and determination. Failure also can train us to start back up. It teaches us patience. It strengthens our mindset. Without failure, there is no resilience, and without resilience, success cannot last. Failure becomes the foundation for success. Not only does failure help us learn and build resilience, it often becomes the foundation for the future success. Consider the famous author J.K. Rowling, the author of Harry Potter. Before her book became a global phenomenon, she was rejected by 12 publishers, and then she was struggling financially and emotionally. But instead of giving up, she kept believing in her story. Another example that closer to us is Steve Jobs, who was once fired from his own company, which is Apple. That failure forced him to reflect, innovate, and return stronger than ever. This story proves one thing: losing today doesn't mean losing forever. Many successful people did not avoid failure. They used failure as fuel to the future. As we come to the end of this speech, let's reflect on what failure truly means. Failure teaches us valuable lesson. Failure also builds resilience and mental strength. And lastly, failure can often become the first chapter of our greatest success story. So here is my call to action for you. The next time you fail a test or lose a competition or even make a mistake, do not give up. Instead, take one small step forward, reflect, improve, and try again. Because success is not about never failing, it is about always rising after you fall. Always remember this. A single failure does not define your destiny, but what matters is not how many times you fail, but how many times you rise. That's all from me. Thank you.